Alright, in this video we're going to be doing a little Pokemon card business update. Hi, I'm Josh. I run Monster Mon Studio with my wife Nicole, where we sell Pokemon cards. Alrighty, so what has been happening? It's been a little bit since we did a business update. The kids were just getting super crazy. They got sick, we got sick, and then just running around doing card shows, so we just couldn't find the time. They kept getting up early. I try to get up anywhere between 4:30 and 5, and then the kids would get up at like 5:30. So I try and do all the business stuff, you know, before the kids get up and then after they go to bed. So when they're kind of getting up in the middle of the night and then they're getting up early, it just makes it really hard. But oh man, let's do a little bit of update what we've been up to. So obviously the Nihil Zero set dropped in Japanese, which is the, again, Japanese version of Perfect Order in English. So that's always how that goes. Of course, if we don't know, the Japanese sets come first, and then about 1-2 months later, the English sets will drop. So I think Nihil Zero is a fun little set. It's nice and solid. It's small, so like 80 cards, and I think it's like 117, including all the secret rares and stuff. So it's a small set, so it's easy to pull stuff. It's not going to be a home run like Ascended Heroes and Mega Dream. There's no like crazy awesome chases. I mean, Zygarde is not a super popular Pokemon, but he is for us because our kid really likes the XY anime on Netflix. So it's got a lot of Pokemon from that anime. Bunnelby, Dedenne, Hawlucha. So yeah, it's a fun little set. We've ripped some boxes, which we have videos of. If you haven't seen those, you can go, after you're done watching this one, go check those out on our YouTube channel. Watch us kind of break those down. So it's a fun little set. But we got that in, and you know, being part of the hype, obviously when new sets drop, being first is really, really important. And in my area in the Midwest, there's a few people kind of selling Japanese and Chinese boxes, but like not a ton. So obviously English is still predominant, and a lot of the vendors in the area that do card shows are probably about my age and maybe a little bit older. So they're definitely focusing on the single game, and they're focusing on English sealed. So the scalping here is pretty bad, so nothing really survives at the local retailers. The vendors here know like no one to hit those up, and they hit them up pretty hard. So so yeah, I'm kind of one of the only games in town that's bringing Japanese Chinese stuff to local card shows. I'm not the only, but I'm just one of the very few. And obviously I post those on Facebook Marketplace right now. Those are our two main avenues for selling everything, is card shows and Marketplace. So eventually we're hoping, again, we're trying to build online by getting to know all of you, so you can get to know us a lot better, and then driving traffic to the website, which we do have. So there should be a link down in the description. Again, check that out. We appreciate it. We got a bunch of Japanese Chinese stuff coming in, and we're itching to expand. There's so much cool stuff, and we just want to have it all. So sold out of Nihil Zero. I have the second batch of ours coming in. Again, we're still small. We started out with just a couple $1,000, and February here will be the start of our third month vending. So we've only been vending for 2 months. I do talk about this in the vendor vlog, I think, a little bit, but we're just brand new. So you're just here along for the journey to, I don't know, something. But we have our second batch of Nihil Zero coming in. I'm pretty excited about that. So prices have kind of stabilized, which always happens after a new release. Prices are really high as it like comes up, and then the release and prices kind of drop, and then they like sort of stabilize. Same with all the cards. And so yeah, we saw that happen with Mega Dream, and now we're seeing it with Nihil Zero. So yeah, I mean, we timed this one better, I would say. When we jumped on the Mega Dream bandwagon, we were bringing those boxes in. We didn't quite know how the timing worked. I mean, I was watching price lists on stuff from Japanese suppliers, but I was a newbie. It was my first set that I was bringing in, so I didn't really understand how and when things happened. I had obviously watched enough like YouTube and stuff to know that a reprint is going to happen and the price does drop, but like when are we supposed to order? And so yeah, we took a little bit of a loss the first couple of batches of Mega Dream, and just because we were new and we just didn't know any better, and we incorrectly timed when we should have bought it to just kind of ride the wave but not overpay. So we kind of overpaid a little bit, and then we just had to sell some of the boxes at, you know, either our cost or like a little bit of a loss. But you know, it happens. Now with Nihil Zero, we definitely timed that one a lot better. So good on us. We did some learning. So now with the card shows, those have been getting a little bit more exciting. I talk about this again in that vendor vlog, but Nicole has come along to 2 shows now. That was really exciting. And the big thing that I have been focusing on is to try and buy bigger cards. So we're pretty fiscally conservative for the most part. I mean, we are in the Midwest and we just don't have a ton of capital. We want more, obviously, to reinvest back into this and to expand and grow. But right now we're still just a small little operation. So we don't have a ton of capital to be dumping into like big cards. But with big cards comes bigger, more capital. So it's that kind of egg before chicken situation of, you can't get bigger cards unless you have bigger cards. Was my thought. And as well as not trusting myself to be able to comp big cards well, which is, for the most part, we deal in modern, ultra modern stuff. So we have very little mid-era and very little vintage. And that's mostly because pricing gets more complex and there's more nuance to it compared to modern stuff. So since we're still, again, just starting our 3rd month, I've comped a lot of cards, a lot of modern cards, because I've done some smaller collection buys on like Facebook Marketplace, but there was just dozens and dozens of cards. So I've gotten the reps in on doing a lot of those, as well as, again, because we've done 8, 9, 10 shows now. When you get big trades, you just comp a lot of cards. So you just get really familiar with the modern stuff for sure. But still, prices move around and blah, blah. But yeah, mid-era and vintage stuff, condition is really, really important on those ones. And I haven't done it a lot. So I haven't gotten a lot of good reps in on those. So it's not that I stay away from them. I'm just very leery on like taking the leap. So I have done a few of the tag team cards that I was relatively certain were like near mint or like LP plus, and I was relatively certain that I could move them, which is the next point of when taking in these bigger cards or mid-era stuff. In this area, modern is definitely the bread and butter of what moves at these shows. So vintage stuff does attract certain people, but they're after very specific cards. So those collectors that collect mid-era vintage, they want very specific things. And when you're just sort of beginning to dabble in mid-era vintage, you just pick kind of random cards. You don't really know what moves exactly. Whereas modern stuff, it's pretty easy to figure out like what moves, what doesn't. And the collectors for those are much more abundant. So they're just more liquid in this area, I would say. Or I just haven't met the collectors who want those mid-era and vintage cards. So we kind of are just more leery. It's never a no, but just more leery on kind of that older stuff. And then as far as big cards go, again, I've been trying to work on me being more comfortable moving into triple digits on cards, which seems absurd. But when you're just starting, the idea of spending triple digits on a Pokemon card is wild. So yeah, being comfortable and taking that risk and taking that leap. We've done it a couple of times on trades, but I've never just straight up like bought triple digit cards with like intent to sell from somebody bringing cards in and just being like, yep, here's my offer. So that doesn't happen to us a lot, but I was very adamant at this last show to like, I'm going to push, we need to buy cards, we need to get cards in and trade, because we ran into not this last show, but a couple shows prior, I was just running out of inventory because I wasn't bringing enough in. People are just straight up buying. Hello, sir. Yes, cats. Okay. So that was my goal. And so my big win was, and this is it's silly, but this was my big win. It's the Gardevoir SAR from Mega Evolutions. Some dude brought it up and I just gave him an offer. Super clean. I mean, just, yep, here it was. And of course, we don't ever pressure. It's just here's my offer, and we encourage people, especially like we'll ask if they just kind of came in and, which was a yes for this guy, it's like, yeah, I mean, shop it around. You don't have to go to the first table and all that kind of stuff. So, and he was relatively new to card shows and stuff. So we're like, yeah, I mean, just go shop it around and just be aware of, this is kind of your value. And like, if you don't, so if he sort of knew how to value cards and whatever, but yeah, like this is your value, like typical percentages and stuff. So, and it's a higher value card a little bit. So, but Gardevoir is this one's a little bit tricky when it comes to liquidity, at least in this area. So like, yep. So I just kind of like gave him a few and then kind of sent him on his way, which totally, absolutely, like no pressure there. But then, yeah, a couple hours later, they came back and they just wanted to sell to us because we were nice, offered, basically they didn't get an offer that beat ours, and they could have sold it to any number of vendors. And I'm sure that's what he did for the last few, several hours, was go and shop it around to all the vendors, and they all gave him the exact same number I did. But he wanted to come back because they just appreciated the time we took to, I guess, do a little bit of education and just appreciate that they were a new collector and new to doing card shows and just knew how this whole thing worked and just taking that time to educate. So definitely one of those things where being Midwest nice, actually Midwest nice, did pay off. So yeah, so this was kind of our big win. It was just this Gardevoir. So straight up buying and being confident, and we had the cash, so that like wasn't the problem. It's just it's me being fiscally conservative on spending triple digits on one Pokemon card. So so that was a big win for us there. And in the future, being more, I would say, not aggressive, but more bullish on when cards that are, good condition, higher end, and are relatively liquid, and being bullish on taking advantage when those deals come to the table. That's the big takeaway for sure. Because like we as in me, I've made mistakes where I bought stuff on Facebook Marketplace that wasn't conditioned quite as well as I thought it was, or I had not seen. I was too excited about getting this deal done and I didn't condition check well enough, and spending, hundreds of dollars on cards that just ended up being not worth how much we ended up spending on them. So yeah, being okay with not forcing a deal to work and to just kind of, yeah, but again, it's all part of learning and being in a new business. So, and we're not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur is somebody who has a new idea and is launching a new business concept from the ground up. Selling Pokemon cards is not a new idea. We're small business owners. That is it. And the idea of mercantilism is definitely not new. Buying something for X and selling it for Y is not new. Reselling is not new. We are not Pokemon entrepreneurs. We are just simply Pokemon small business owners. That's it. But with that, anybody who knows or watches any kind of business content probably knows, like Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee, they talk about like not avoiding pain when it comes to like small businesses, and it's moving into and through pain. So when you make mistakes, it's not really to avoid mistakes, it's you have to make mistakes because that's where the most learning happens. And that's true in basically any endeavor, and running a small Pokemon business is no exception, where you have to make mistakes, because with those you will definitely learn. So I mean, with that, like obviously we learned like buying Mega Dream at the wrong time, kind of taking a hit on those. We learned Nihil Zero. We, did that one more correctly, and we could capitalize on the hype. Buying cards at not necessarily the right value or the right conditioning, and learning like what all that means and how to do that properly. But also, there can be mistakes of not jumping on deals that you probably should have. So I've definitely passed on cards or whatever that I was being too bearish in my business acumen, where I should have been more bullish to take advantage of that opportunity. So that's something, basically just being smart, not being stupid, and not trying to force a deal to go through, but also making sure that if I do this deal, that it's good for everybody involved. But obviously, we also need to it has to be good for us too, because we're not in the business of losing money. We're trying to be in the business of making money and expanding this whole thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people are out there that'll watch this channel that are new Pokemon, but it seems like I meet new collectors, new card show goers, and new vendors like all the time, at least in my area. So, which is awesome. It just means that the hobby is not crashing, it's not dying like everybody seems to think it's gonna be, but it's just not. So yeah, it just means that the hobby is robust here, and yeah, it's okay to make mistakes because everybody does. I've just been I watch PokeTuber content all the time, and I think that talking about, you know, decisions they made and why, and what that kind of led to, sometimes it was a win, sometimes it's an L, and if you can net more wins than losses, then, you know, that's a win in and of itself. And no small business owner or entrepreneur has taken 0 losses. Everybody's made a bad deal or a bad decision, but you learn from it and you move on, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, we'll be doing more of that in the future. We have card shows lined up all month long, and I think well into March. We're booked out every single weekend, so just getting our name out there, Monster Mon Studio, you know, bringing the Japanese Chinese booster boxes, which they're all selling great, and we're definitely excited about that. So yeah, definitely appreciate everybody for watching. If you all want to check out our website, it's monstermonstudio.com. The link should be in the description below. We have Japanese and Chinese booster boxes. I think I've said that several times if you've missed it. But if you want to get those from us, we definitely appreciate it. And until the next one, take care.